The letter arrived on a Tuesday. I remember because I'd just finished installing new kitchen cabinets for a client, and my hands still smelled like sawdust and wood stain. The bank's logo glared at me through the envelope's plastic window, but I wasn't worried. I always paid my mortgage on time. My name is Kaya, and I've spent the last decade building my life exactly how I wanted it. Project manager by trade, homeowner by determination, and apparently, as I learned that day, a complete fool when it came to trusting family. The first line of the letter made my coffee go cold in my throat. Notice of default and intent to foreclose. This has to be a mistake, I muttered, fumbling for my phone. The bank's customer service put me on hold 3 times before connecting me to Sean, a loan officer who spoke with the kind of careful tone reserved for delivering bad news. Ms. Lawson, according to our records, your property was used as collateral for a business loan taken out 4 months ago. The payments are severely delinquent. What business loan? I never took out any loan. The documentation shows you as a co-signer. The primary borrower is Evan Lawson, and the guarantors are listed as Trinity and Rick Lawson. My brother's name hit me like a slap. That's impossible. I never signed anything. We have notarized documents with your signature, Sean said gently. Would you like me to email you copies? 20 minutes later, I was staring at my computer screen, my hands shaking. There it was, my signature, perfectly forged on loan documents for $300,000. My parents' signatures were there too, along with Evan's flamboyant scrawl. The notary stamp belonged to my mother's bridge club friend, Patricia. I drove to my parents' house in a blur. The familiar colonial with its pristine lawn and my mother's precious rose bushes looked different now, sinister, like it was hiding secrets, which of course it was. They were having dinner when I walked in without knocking. My mother looked up from her plate, annoyed at the interruption until she saw my face. Kaya, what's wrong, sweetheart? I slapped the papers onto their dining room table, scattering my father's peas. Care to explain this? My mother barely glanced at them. Oh, that. Well, we knew you'd say no if we asked, but Evan needed the money for his new venture. It's going to be huge, a chain of automated car washes across 3 states. You forged my signature? You used my house as collateral without telling me? My father wouldn't meet my eyes, but my mother's face hardened into that familiar expression of righteous certainty. Family helps family, Kaya. Your brother needed this chance, and your house has all that equity just sitting there. Don't be selfish. Selfish? My voice cracked. He's 3 months behind on payments. The bank is threatening foreclosure. He's had some startup delays, my father mumbled. It'll work out. Where is he? I demanded. Where's Evan? On a business trip, my mother said smoothly. Meeting investors in Phoenix. He'll sort everything out when he gets back. I laughed, and it sounded horrible even to my own ears. Phoenix? Let me guess. He's staying at some luxury resort, spending loan money while my house is on the line? Now you're just being dramatic. My mother stood up, straightening her cardigan. This attitude of yours, this refusal to help your brother, it's always been your problem, Kaya. So rigid, so unwilling to bend for family. Bend? You committed fraud. You could go to jail. Don't be ridiculous. She waved her hand dismissively. Patricia did us a favour with the notary stamp. Everything's legal enough. And once the car washes start operating... Stop! I held up my hand. Just stop. Do you even hear yourself? My father finally spoke up. Princess, we knew you'd be upset at first, but your mother's right. Family has to stick together. Evan just needs a little more time. I looked at them. Really looked at them. My mother, serene in her certainty that she'd done nothing wrong. My father, weak and enabling as always. They sat in their comfortable dining room, eating dinner like it was just another Tuesday, while my entire world was crumbling. I turned without another word and walked out. Behind me, I heard my mother call. Don't be childish, Kaya. Come back and discuss this reasonably. But I was already in my car, my hands white-knuckled on the steering wheel. As I drove home, their words echoed in my head. Family helps family. Family sticks together. Well, they were about to learn exactly what happens when you betray family. Because they hadn't just stolen my signature or leveraged my house. They'd stolen my trust, and I was going to make damn sure they regretted it. They did what? Zaylee slammed her coffee mug down so hard that several nearby customers at the cafe turned to stare. I'll kill them. Actually, no. First I'll sue them, then I'll kill them. I managed a weak smile at my best friend's outrage. Being a lawyer, Zaylee's first instinct was always legal warfare. Right now, that's exactly what I needed. Can they really get away with this? I asked, sliding the loan documents across the table. Zaylee's eyes narrowed as she scanned the papers. This notary stamp? It's technically valid, but if Patricia did this without witnessing your signature, that's a criminal offense. She looked up sharply. Have you called the police? Not yet. I hesitated. They're still my parents. They're criminals who committed fraud, Zaylee corrected, then softened her tone. Look, I get it, but they're counting on you being too loyal to fight back. That's how they've always operated, right? She wasn't wrong. I thought about all the times Evan had borrowed money, all the times my parents had insisted I help him out. The business courses he never finished, the startup equipment he sold for quick cash, the investors he'd left hanging. Here's what we're going to do, Zaylee said, pulling out her laptop. First, we document everything. Every conversation, every piece of paper, every email. Then we're going to look at these loan documents very, very carefully. For the next hour, we combed through the paperwork. Zaylee's expression grew increasingly animated as she found what she was looking for. Got it! She pointed to a clause buried in the fine print. This is beautiful. There's a provision for transfer of liability under specific conditions. Your parents didn't read the fine print, did they? They never do, I said. They just sign whatever Evan puts in front of them. Perfect. Zaylee's smile was predatory. Because we're about to use that against them. My phone buzzed. A text from my mother. Evan's back in town. Coming for family dinner Sunday. Be there to apologize for your behavior. I showed it to Zaylee, who snorted. The audacity. Wait, this is actually good. Keep playing nice. We need them comfortable and careless. What exactly are you planning? You're going to start recording everything, she said, pulling up an app store on her phone. Download this. It's legal in our state to record conversations as long as one party consents. That's you. As I installed the app, Zaylee continued outlining her strategy. We also need to find Evan's other victims. I guarantee your house isn't the only thing he's leveraged. I wouldn't even know where to start, I admitted. Social media, business registries, local court records. Zaylee was already typing. People love complaining online about getting scammed. We just need to... Hello, what's this? She turned her laptop to show me a Facebook post from 6 months ago. Warning to all small business owners. Evan L. promised partnership in automated car wash venture, took $50,000 in matching funds, then disappeared. Contact me if this happened to you too. The post was from someone named Sadie. Reach out to her, Zaylee advised. Carefully, through a new email account. We need to build a paper trail of Evan's cons. I felt sick reading through the comments. Dozens of people sharing similar stories about my brother. Equipment loans never repaid, investment money vanished, lease agreements abandoned. I can't believe they keep covering for him, I whispered. Because it's never affected them directly, Zaylee pointed out. They've always had you as their safety net. Time to cut that net and let them fall. She pulled out a legal pad and started writing. If they like playing with contracts so much, let's drown them in paperwork. By the time we're done, they'll wish they'd never forged your signature. What about my house? We protect it first, she said firmly. I'm calling in a favor with a real estate attorney. We're going to transfer partial ownership to a trust, then sell off that back lot you never use. It'll give you liquidity and make the property harder to seize. My phone buzzed again. Another text from my mother. Wear something nice Sunday. The neighbours are coming too. Zaylee read it over my shoulder and laughed. Oh, they want an audience. Let's give them one they'll never forget. For the first time since receiving that letter, I felt something other than panic and betrayal. Something that felt a lot like hope, or maybe revenge. One more thing, Zaylee said, closing her laptop. Stop calling them Mum and Dad. From now on, they're Trinity and Rick, the people who tried to steal your house. Distance yourself emotionally. This isn't about family anymore. This is business. She was right. I'd spent my whole life being the responsible one, the reliable one, the one who always cleaned up Evan's messes. Not anymore. Okay, I said, straightening my shoulders. Let's get to work. The realtor's sold sign went up on my back lot 3 days later. The young couple who bought it were thrilled to get land in my neighborhood, even if it was just an oversized garden plot. I was thrilled to have quick cash and one less thing my family could take from me. Sign here, Zaylee said, sliding another document across her desk. This puts the remaining property in a trust. Your parents won't be able to touch it without triggering multiple legal alerts. I signed, then checked my watch. I'm meeting Sadie in an hour. The woman from Facebook? Are you sure that's safe? We're meeting at her cafe, public place, security cameras. I stood up, straightening my jacket. Besides, I need to know what my brother did to her. The cafe was small but busy, with mismatched furniture and local art on the walls. Sadie was easy to spot. Young, determined-looking, with a streak of purple in her dark hair. She waved me over to a corner table. I almost didn't believe your email, she said, as I sat down. His own sister wanting to expose him. That's new. Tell me everything, I said, hitting record on my phone app. From the beginning, Sadie's story was worse than I'd imagined. Evan had convinced her to invest her inheritance in his car wash scheme, promising to match her funds with his own investment. He'd even shown her fake bank statements. The grant money was what really got me, she said, twisting a napkin in her hands. He applied for small business development funds using my cafe's information. Somehow got approved for $75,000. The check came to my business address, but he intercepted it, forged my signature. My stomach lurched. He does that a lot. Then he disappeared. Left me with lease payments on a commercial property he'd rented for the car wash, nearly bankrupted my cafe. She gestured around the room. I had to sell my house to keep this place afloat. I'm so sorry, I whispered. Your parents came to see me, you know. Said I should be patient, that Evan was just having cash flow issues. Her laugh was bitter. They offered to pay me $500 to drop the police report. Did you? No. But the police said it was a civil matter since I'd willingly invested. She pulled out her phone, showing me screenshots. I kept everything, though. Emails, texts, bank records, even recorded them offering me hush money. I forwarded copies of everything to my secure email, then showed her the loan documents with my forged signature. Her eyes widened. That's the same notary stamp he used on my grant paperwork. She dug through her files, pulling out a document. Look, identical. Even has the same slight smudge on the right side. My hands were shaking as I photographed her paperwork. Patricia hadn't just helped my parents commit fraud. She'd been helping Evan all along. There are others, Sadie said quietly. A lot of others. We have a group chat. My phone buzzed. Trinity calling. I declined it, but seconds later a text appeared. Went to the bank today. Taking out a HELOC on our house to help with Evan's situation. You'll see we're handling it. No need for your dramatics on Sunday. I showed Sadie the message. She shook her head. They're still enabling him. After everything? They think money solves everything. They'll drain their retirement, remortgage their house, anything to keep his schemes going. I paused. But maybe we can use that. How? That HELOC, it's new debt, new paperwork, new opportunities to... I trailed off as an idea formed. Would you be willing to tell your story in front of witnesses? Maybe Sunday night? Sadie's smile was sharp. Just tell me when and where. I'll bring receipts. Back home, I found another text from Trinity. Evan's bringing his new business partner to dinner. Wear that blue dress you have, the one that doesn't make you look so severe. I forwarded it to Zaylee with my own message. They're getting sloppy. Taking out more loans, inviting strangers to witness their dysfunction. Time to speed up the plan? Her response came quickly. Perfect. Your mother always did love an audience. Let's give her a performance she'll never forget. I walked through my house that evening, touching the walls I'd painted myself, the cabinets I'd installed, the life I'd built. In my home office, I opened a new document and began typing, Timeline of fraud and financial abuse, perpetrated by Evan, Trinity, and Rick. The list grew quickly, each entry backed by documents, recordings, or witness statements. By the time I finished, it was past midnight, and I had enough evidence to bury them all. Sunday dinner was going to be interesting. I wore the blue dress, not because Trinity asked, but because it made me look exactly like the dutiful daughter they thought I still was. Zaylee had coached me for hours. Smile, apologize, make them think you've accepted their explanation. The more comfortable they feel, the sloppier they'll get. The house was full when I arrived. Trinity had invited the neighbours, just as she'd threatened. Rick was playing bartender, while Evan held court in the living room, gesturing dramatically as he described his latest business venture to their captive audience. "Kaya!" Trinity air-kissed my cheek. "You look lovely, see? That dress is so much more appropriate than your usual work clothes." I swallowed my retort and smiled. "Thanks, Mum. Is that paperwork for the HELOC on the kitchen counter? Maybe I could help review it?" "Oh, your father's handling all that." She waved dismissively. "Go say hello to your brother. He's brought Marcus. Such a nice young man, very successful in real estate." Marcus turned out to be exactly what I expected. Another smooth-talking con artist in an expensive suit. He and Evan were thick as thieves, finishing each other's sentences as they outlined their latest scheme. "It's not just car washes anymore," Evan announced. "We're talking full-service centres. Marcus here has connections with major property developers." I recorded every word on my phone, hidden in my purse. During dinner, I played my role perfectly. I asked interested questions about their business plan. I laughed at Evan's jokes. I even apologised for my overreaction last week. "That's all we wanted to hear," Trinity beamed. "Family has to stick together. Rick, get those papers for Kaya to sign. Show her we're handling everything." Rick shuffled into his study and returned with a stack of documents. "Just some formalities for the bank," he said, sliding them across the table. "Sign where marked, Princess." I made a show of reading through them carefully. "This looks complicated. Mind if I take photos to review later?" "No need," Trinity said quickly. "It's just routine stuff. Sign now while everyone's here to witness." I pulled out my phone anyway, snapping pictures while making small talk. Trinity's face tightened, but she couldn't object without looking suspicious in front of the neighbours. "Actually," I said brightly, "I brought some papers too, for that investment opportunity we discussed." I pulled out the documents Zaylee had prepared. "Since we're all signing things tonight," Evan barely glanced at them before scrawling his signature. Rick hesitated slightly longer, but with Trinity nodding encouragement, he signed too. They were so used to pushing papers at me, they never expected I'd turn the tables. "What exactly did we just sign?" Marcus asked, his first show of actual business sense all evening. "Oh, just some liability transfers," I said casually. "Family helping family, right, Mum?" Trinity's eyes narrowed slightly, but she kept her social smile fixed firmly in place. "Of course, dear. More coffee, anyone?" As the evening wound down, my phone buzzed. A text from Sean at the bank. "New documentation received. Liability transfer complete. Your property is now protected. Good luck." I stayed just long enough to be polite, then made my excuses. At the door, Trinity caught my arm. "I'm glad you've come around," she said. "I knew you'd understand eventually. Family first, always." I looked at her, really looked at her, at the woman who taught me that love meant sacrifice, that family loyalty trumped personal boundaries, that my role was to enable and excuse and clean up after everyone else's messes. "You taught me well," I said softly. "Everything I know about handling family matters. I learned from you." She beamed, missing the edge in my voice completely. In my car, I called Zaylee. "It's done. They signed everything. Perfect." I could hear her grinning. "The transfer documents are already filed. By morning, they'll be legally responsible for every cent of Evan's loans. And with the HELOC they just took out, they've tied their own noose," I finished. "Exactly. And the best part? They did it to themselves, just like they did to you. Karma's a beautiful thing." I drove home slowly, savouring the weight lifting from my shoulders. My house was dark and quiet when I arrived, but it felt different now. Safer. Maine again. My phone buzzed one last time. A message from Sadie. "Just heard from 3 more of his victims. When do you want us to show up at your parents' house?" I thought about Trinity's smug smile, about Rick's weakness, about Evan's endless schemes, about all the lives they'd helped him ruin while pretending it was just family helping family. Sunday, I texted back. Next family dinner. Bring everything you have. It was time for the final act, and I was going to make sure they had the biggest audience possible for their downfall. The first crack in Trinity's perfect world appeared on Wednesday morning. I was at a job site when my phone lit up with her call. Someone's posting horrible lies about your brother online. Her voice was shrill. Business reviews, social media, everywhere. You have to help us get them taken down. I pulled up the posts I'd been orchestrating for the past week. Dozens of Evan's victims sharing their stories, complete with documentation. The local business journal had picked it up, running a piece titled Serial Entrepreneur or Serial Scammer. Have you read them? I asked innocently. Maybe they're not lies. Of course they're lies. This Sadie person is clearly just bitter about a failed business deal, and now she's got others making up stories too. I could hear papers rustling in the background. What are you doing? Trying to reach the bank. These ridiculous people have been calling about some property listing. She paused. Why are they saying our house is collateral for their investments? Probably the same reason my house was collateral for Evan's loans, I said flatly. Family helping family, right? The line went quiet for a moment. Kaya, she said slowly. What did you do? Nothing you didn't teach me. Check your mail. There should be some interesting documents from the bank arriving today. I hung up as she started to sputter. Within an hour, my phone was flooded with texts. Rick, Princess, please call your mother. Something's wrong with the paperwork. Evan, WTF did you do? Marcus is bailing on the deal. Trinity, fix this now. I ignored them all and called Zaylee instead. It's starting, I said. How long before they realise? The bank's processing the liability transfer today. By tomorrow, every debt Evan racked up becomes their legal responsibility, including that shiny new HELOC they took out. My phone buzzed again, a local news number. Looks like the reporters found Evan's trail, I said. Right on schedule. Perfect timing. I just got off the phone with the notary board. Patricia's facing an investigation for multiple fraudulent stamps. She's already talking, trying to save herself. I ended the call and checked my email. Sadie had forwarded me a message from Marcus, Evan's supposed business partner. Distance myself from all operations immediately. Legal concerns mounting. No further contact. The next text from Trinity was different. Half our furniture is being inventoried. What the hell did you do? I sent back a single line. Family helps family. That afternoon, I drove past their house. A bailiff's car was parked outside. Through the window, I could see Trinity gesturing frantically while Rick sat slumped in his favourite armchair, the one that would probably be seized by the end of the week. My phone rang, a number I didn't recognise. Ms. Lawson? This is Anthony from the county clerk's office. We're processing some property seizure orders and needed to verify some details. Of course, I said, watching another official-looking car pull up to my parents' house. Happy to help. The liability transfer paperwork filed last week. The signatures are all authenticated and witnessed properly? Unlike the ones they forged, I confirmed. Everything's legal, everything's documented. After hanging up, I parked down the street and watched the scene unfold. Trinity came storming out, waving papers at the bailiff. Rick followed, looking lost. No sign of Evan. He'd probably vanished again, leaving them to deal with the fallout. Just like always. My phone lit up with a message from Sadie. News crew outside my cafe. They want to interview all of us. Ready to go public? Before I could reply, another text came through, from Sean at the bank. Final transfer complete. Your property is fully protected now. Good luck with everything else. I drove home, feeling oddly empty. Not sad exactly, not even angry anymore. Just done. Inside, I found a letter from Trinity had been slipped under my door. The handwriting was shaky. How could you do this to your own family, after everything we've done for you? The neighbours are talking. The bank is calling. Your father can barely look at me. Evan's reputation is ruined. Is this what you wanted? To destroy us all? I recorded myself reading it aloud, then sent the audio file to Zaylee with a message. Add it to the evidence file. They still think they're the victims. Her response was immediate. Of course they do, but the real victims are getting justice now. You did that. Be proud. I looked around my house, my safe, secure house that they'd tried to steal, and finally let myself smile. Sunday dinner was still coming, and with it, the final act of this family drama. And this time, I'd written the ending. The bailiffs arrived at 9 a.m. sharp on Sunday morning. I watched from my parked car as they methodically loaded Trinity's precious antiques into their truck. Her crystal collection, Rick's signed baseball memorabilia, the grandfather clock that had been in the family for generations. My phone rang. Trinity. They're taking everything, she sobbed. You have to help us. Please, Kaya. We're your parents. Are you sure? The paperwork you forged says I'm just another business asset. That's not fair. We did that to help your brother. And how's that working out? I watched another bailiff emerge with Rick's golf clubs. Where is Evan, anyway? He's dealing with some legal issues. Her voice dropped. Marcus turned out to be an FBI informant. Something about wire fraud investigations. Of course he was. I'd made sure of that. The neighbours are watching, Trinity whispered. Mrs. Peterson from across the street is actually taking pictures? Do you know what this is doing to our reputation? About the same thing you did to mine when you tried to steal my house. A commotion drew my attention. Sadie had arrived with several others, all former victims of Evan's schemes. They stood on the sidewalk, phones recording everything. Who are these people? Trinity demanded. Why are they here? Family reunion, I said coldly. All the people Evan scammed, all the lives he ruined while you enabled him. They wanted to witness karma firsthand. This isn't karma. This is you being vindictive. A police car pulled up. 2 officers approached the house, and I heard Trinity gasp. I have to go. The police are here about Patricia's notary fraud. I know, I said. I'm the one who reported it. I ended the call and got out of my car. Sadie walked over to meet me. You okay? She asked. Better than okay. I watched the officers enter my parents' house. How many showed up today? 12 of us. More coming for the evening news segment. She smiled grimly. The reporter wants to do a piece on financial elder abuse. How children manipulate their parents into taking on massive debt. Thought you'd appreciate the irony. A familiar BMW screeched around the corner. Evan. He jumped out, designer suit wrinkled, face red with rage. You evil bitch, he shouted at me. You ruined everything. No. Sadie stepped forward. You did that yourself. We're just making sure everyone knows it. He turned on her. You're that coffee shop nobody, the one who couldn't read a simple business contract. The one you stole Grant money from, she corrected. And look, here come the federal agents to discuss that with you. 2 unmarked cars had indeed pulled up. Evan's face went from red to white. Mum, he yelled toward the house. Dad, do something. But Trinity and Rick were busy with the local police, giving statements about Patricia's fraudulent notary services. Through the window, I could see Rick's shoulders shaking as he signed another document. Evan made a break for his car, but the federal agents were faster. As they led him away in handcuffs, he kept screaming about family loyalty and how we'd all betrayed him. Family loyalty, Sadie mused beside me. Funny how that only goes one way with guys like him. Trinity appeared on the front porch, mascara streaking her face. Kaya, please. They're arresting your brother. They're saying something about federal charges. Multiple counts of wire fraud, I confirmed. Plus the notary fraud, investment scams, and all those business loans he defaulted on. The ones you're now responsible for, thanks to those papers you signed so eagerly. We're your parents, she whispered. How could you do this to us? The same way you did it to me, one signature at a time. The bailiffs finished loading their truck. The police led Patricia away in handcuffs. She'd been hiding in the guest room. The federal agents drove off with Evan, and through it all the neighbours watched, phones recording every moment. Rick finally emerged, looking ancient. Princess, he started. Don't, I cut him off. You don't get to call me that anymore. You don't get to call me anything. But what are we supposed to do now? Trinity wailed. Where are we supposed to go? I looked at my childhood home, now stripped of its contents, at my broken parents, finally facing consequences, at Evan's empty BMW, soon to be seized like everything else. "You're smart people," I said, turning to leave. "I'm sure you'll figure something out. After all, family helps family, right?" I walked away to the sound of Trinity's sobs and the clicking of camera phones. Behind me, Sadie and the others began sharing their stories with the gathering news crews. The family empire was falling, and I didn't look back once. The mediation room felt too small for the amount of rage Trinity brought with her. She sat across the table, designer handbag now a knockoff, wearing the same self-righteous expression she'd perfected over years of enabling Evan's schemes. "This is ridiculous," she announced to the mediator. "We're here because my daughter is throwing a tantrum over a simple family matter." Zaylee, sitting beside me in full lawyer mode, smiled like a shark. "A simple family matter involving federal fraud, Mrs. Lawson? Interesting perspective." Rick slouched in his chair, looking defeated. Their lawyer, a nervous man named Thomas, kept shuffling papers and checking his phone. "We have a proposal," Thomas began. "No," Zaylee cut him off. "First, we're going to review exactly what your clients did." "Screen, please." The mediator dimmed the lights as Zaylee started her presentation. Photographs of forged documents, audio recordings of Trinity and Rick admitting to the fraud, bank statements showing how they'd funneled money to Evan for years. "Stop this," Trinity demanded. "This is private family business. Like stealing your daughter's house was private family business?" Zaylee clicked to the next slide. "Or helping Evan defraud dozens of innocent people. Here's Patricia's signed confession about the notary fraud, by the way. She's very cooperative now that she's facing charges." Rick finally spoke up. "Princess, please. We can work this out. Family doesn't need lawyers and courts." "Family doesn't commit fraud either," I said quietly. "But here we are." Thomas cleared his throat. "Perhaps we could discuss a payment plan, once Mr. and Mrs. Lawson sell their remaining assets." "They don't have any remaining assets," Zaylee interrupted. "Everything's been seized or frozen. The house, the cars, the retirement accounts, all gone, thanks to the liability transfer they so helpfully signed." Trinity's face went from red to white. "That paperwork you tricked us into signing, we'll contest it." "With what evidence?" Zaylee's smile widened. "The signatures are properly witnessed and notarized. Legally, unlike what you did to Kaya. You might want to read documents before signing them. Isn't that what you always told your daughter?" The mediator cleared her throat. "Perhaps we should take a brief recess." "No need," I said. "I think we're done here. They can't undo what they did, and I can't undo what I did in response. Karma's funny that way." Trinity stood up so fast her chair toppled. "Karma? You destroyed our lives, our reputation. Your brother is in jail." "Where he belongs," I replied calmly. "Along with Patricia. You're lucky you're not joining them." "Lucky?" She laughed hysterically. "We're bankrupt. Your father had to take a job as a night security guard. I'm selling makeup on social media." "Sounds like you're finally learning about honest work." Rick put his head in his hands. "What do you want from us, Kaya?" "Nothing." I stood up, gathering my things. "I already have what I want. My house is safe, Evan's victims are getting justice, and you two, you're finally facing consequences for your actions." "We're your parents," Trinity whispered, but the words sounded hollow now. "No," I said. "You're the people who taught me that family is just a weapon to get what you want. Congratulations. I learned that lesson really well." Zaylee started packing up her presentation. "We're done here. The liability transfer stands. All debts remain with Mr. and Mrs. Lawson. Any attempt to contest will result in criminal charges being filed." As we headed for the door, Trinity called out one last time. "You'll regret this. Someday you'll need family and we won't be there." I turned back. "You were never there. That's why we're here now." In the hallway, Zaylee gave me a quick hug. "You okay?" "Better than okay." I checked my phone. More messages from Sadie and the others. "The support group for Evan's victims is meeting tonight. They want me to come speak." "You should. It's important for people to know they're not alone." She paused. "Speaking of not being alone, that cute contractor from your last project keeps asking about you." I laughed. "One life-changing event at a time, please." Through the mediation room's window, I could see Trinity crying, while Rick stared blankly at the wall. Thomas was already packing up. probably realizing this was a lost cause. They really thought they could fix this, I mused. That they could lawyer their way out of consequences, just like always. People like that never think the rules apply to them, Zaley said, until they do. My phone buzzed. A news alert about Evan pleading guilty to federal charges. No trial needed. The evidence was overwhelming. Ready to go? Zaley asked. I took one last look at my parents through the window. They looked small now, diminished. All their manipulations, all their enabling, all their family-first lies had finally caught up with them. Yeah, I said. I'm ready. The last box from my parents' house sat unopened on my kitchen counter. After their bankruptcy forced them to downsize to a small apartment, Trinity had begged the bailiffs to let her give me my childhood memories. I knew it was another manipulation tactic, but I'd accepted the box anyway. My doorbell rang. Sadie stood on the porch with 2 coffee cups and a determined expression. Thought you might need moral support for this, she said, nodding at the box. How did you know? Because I kept my scammers' photos for months before I could look at them. She set the coffee down. Want company while you go through it? Inside the box, Trinity had packed exactly what I'd expected. Carefully curated photos of happy family moments. Evan's graduation before he dropped out. Family vacations where I was always behind the camera. Holiday gatherings where they'd pressured me to loan him money. They documented their own manipulation, I mused, showing Sadie a Christmas photo. Look, this was right after they convinced me to co-sign his first business loan. My phone buzzed. A text from Rick. Found more of your things. Can we bring them by? They're still trying, Sadie noted. I typed back, donate them. I have everything I need. How's the support group going? I asked Sadie, changing the subject. Growing. 3 more victims came forward yesterday. The prosecutors are adding their stories to Evan's case. She sipped her coffee. Your parents tried to come to the last meeting. What? Why? To explain their side, apparently. Security didn't let them in. She smiled grimly. Trinity made a scene, saying we were all conspiring against her precious family. The doorbell rang again. This time it was Zaley, waving a document. Hot off the press, she announced, striding into my kitchen. Evan took a plea deal, 8 years federal time, plus restitution to all victims. She spotted the box. Ah, guilt trip in a box day? Want to help us burn it? Sadie suggested. Actually, I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app. I have a better idea. I showed them the screen, my mortgage payment history, all green check marks, all in my name only. The house is fully mine now, I said. No loans, no liens, no family claims. I thought maybe we could celebrate that instead. Zaley grinned. Housewarming party 2.0? More like house freedom party, Sadie corrected. My phone buzzed again. Trinity. Your father lost his job. We need help with rent. Family has to stick together in hard times. I showed the others. Some people never learn. Block them, Sadie advised. Like I blocked my scammer. Sometimes peace means cutting the cord completely. Already done. I held up my phone, showing the blocked numbers. Want to help me redecorate? I'm thinking of turning Evan's old room into a home office. We spent the afternoon moving furniture and pinning paint samples to walls. Every change felt like reclaiming another piece of my life. The doorbell rang one last time. This time it was Anthony, the bailiff who'd supervised my parents' property seizure. Sorry to bother you, he said, but I thought you should know. Your brother's been writing letters from jail trying to set up new investment schemes. Your parents are collecting money from their church group to help him start fresh when he gets out. Of course they are. I shook my head. Thank you for telling me. No problem. I've seen too many families like yours. It's rare to see someone break the cycle. After he left, I rejoined Sadie and Zaley in what would be my new office. You okay? Zaley asked. Better than okay. I picked up the box of family photos. I'm going to donate these to the prosecutor's office. They can use them to show how long the manipulation patterns went on. Turn their weapons into evidence. Sadie nodded approvingly. Perfect. We ordered pizza and sat on my office floor, planning the room's new layout. My phone stayed quiet. No more guilt trips, no more manipulation, no more family emergencies. You know what? I said, looking around at my half-painted walls and my true friends. I finally feel at home here. Because it's really yours now, Zaylee said. No, I corrected her, because I'm really mine now. Sadie raised her pizza slice in a toast. To breaking cycles. To consequences, Zaylee added. I looked at the empty box that had held so many false memories, then at the room that represented my future. To building something better, I finished, and for the first time since this all began, I felt nothing but peace.
Hi, I'm Kayla, and trust me, you're going to want to hear this. My sister-in-law tried to steal my babies before they were even born. Yes, you heard that right. Let me take you back to where it all began. My husband James and I had been trying for a baby for 3 long years. Those years were filled with heartbreak, countless fertility treatments, and more needles than I cared to count. Through it all, his sister Amy was our biggest cheerleader. Amy had always been open about her struggles with infertility due to complications from endometriosis, so she seemed to truly empathize with us. You're going to be the best mom, Kayla, she'd say, bringing over fertility-boosting smoothies and even tracking my ovulation cycle with almost obsessive dedication. I just know it's going to happen soon. When we finally got the news that I was pregnant, with twins, no less, Amy was the first person we told. She burst into tears, pulling me into a hug so tight I could barely breathe. This is perfect, she said, her voice trembling with emotion. 2 babies, 1 for each arm. Looking back, there was something off in her expression, but in that moment I was too overjoyed to notice. James and I were ecstatic. His parents, Linda and Robert, couldn't contain their excitement either. Linda began knitting tiny baby blankets, while Robert started planning the nursery's renovation. They lived just a few blocks away, so family dinners quickly became baby prep central. Everything seemed perfect until my 4th month. That's when Amy started showing up to every single doctor's appointment. At first, I thought it was sweet. If I was just in the area, she'd say, somehow always arriving moments before my name was called. Besides, I want to learn everything about my little niece or nephew. But soon, her behavior shifted from supportive to unsettling. She began asking strange questions during the appointments. Dr. Santos, hypothetically, how would a surrogate handle the birth certificate? Or, what documents would a biological mother need to prove the babies are hers? Dr. Santos, my OB-GYN, remained professional, but I noticed her giving Emmy odd looks. James, meanwhile, was too busy with work. He's a software developer with tight deadlines to witness these red flags. Then, one day, Amy showed up with a thick folder of paperwork. Just some information about my health history, she said nonchalantly. You know, in case the babies inherit anything from our side of the family. That word, however, began slipping into her vocabulary more frequently, as though the twins were partially hers. She touched my growing belly without asking and even told strangers she was finally going to be a mother. I tried talking to James about her bizarre behavior, but he brushed it off. She's just excited about being an aunt, he said. If only we'd known what was really happening. At my 6-month checkup, everything unraveled. The nurse kept giving me strange looks as she reviewed my chart, then called Dr. Santos over for a whispered conversation. Mrs. Harrison, Dr. Santos said cautiously, there seems to be some confusion in your records. What do you mean? I asked, my stomach nodding. She frowned at her computer screen. We have duplicate files, one listing you as the mother, and another showing you as a surrogate for Amy Harrison. My heart stopped. What? That's impossible. These are my babies. Amy is my sister-in-law, nothing more. Dr. Santos hesitated, then pulled up more documents. There are signed surrogacy agreements here, she said. They're dated before your pregnancy. The signatures look legitimate. My hands shook as I stared at the screen. But I never signed anything. There wasn't a surrogacy arrangement. I was trembling as I called James, my voice barely steady. You need to hear this. Before James could make it to the hospital, Amy had already started her performance. That evening I walked into my in-laws' house to find Linda and Robert sitting on the couch, their faces grim, while Amy sobbed dramatically into her hands. The moment she saw me, her head snapped up, and she screamed, "How could you try to steal my babies?" I froze in shock as she continued, "You agreed to be my surrogate. We have all the paperwork. You're just trying to keep them because you got attached." James arrived moments later, stepping into a room already thick with tension. His parents were consoling Amy, their eyes flicking toward me like I was some kind of monster. "Show him the papers, Amy," Linda urged. "Show your brother the truth." With a triumphant look, Amy pulled out the folder I'd seen her carrying before. Now I understood what it truly contained: surrogacy agreements, medical records, even emails supposedly between us discussing the arrangement. Every page was fake, every word forged, but to an untrained eye, it all looked legitimate. James stared at the documents, his brow furrowed. "Kayla would never agree to this without telling me," he said, his voice steady but tinged with doubt. Amy pounced on that hesitation. "I'm protecting my babies," she cried, pulling out even more papers. "Look at these ultrasound records. They're listed under my name. Ask anyone at the hospital. I have copies of everything." Robert, usually the quiet one, spoke up. "There must be some reasonable explanation. Kayla, did you perhaps agree to this during your fertility struggles and change your mind?" "No," I shouted, my voice trembling with fury. "She's lying. She forged everything." But Amy had done her homework. Every document appeared flawless, every signature an exact match. She'd even altered hospital records. I watched helplessly as my in-laws' expressions shifted from concern to suspicion. "I think Kayla should stay somewhere else until we sort this out," Linda suggested quietly, avoiding my eyes. "For everyone's safety." "She's not going anywhere," James snapped, his voice sharp and unwavering. "These are our babies. I was there for every fertility treatment, every negative test, every moment of hope and heartbreak." He turned to his sister, his tone softening but still firm. "Amy, you're not well." But the damage was done. The seeds of doubt had been planted. That night, as we drove home, James was unusually quiet. The moment we got through the door, he pulled out his laptop and started digging through old emails and documents. "I'm going to figure out how she did this," he promised. "There has to be a trail." I placed my hands protectively over my belly, feeling the twins kick. They knew who their real mother was, even if the rest of the family was starting to question it. Around 3 a.m., James suddenly sat up straight, staring at his screen. "The metadata is wrong," he whispered. "Amy backdated everything, but she messed up the file properties. These documents were all created 2 weeks ago." It was the first crack in her perfect plan. James called in sick to work the next morning and continued his investigation. Amy had overlooked one crucial detail. James worked in cybersecurity. By midday, he turned to me with a triumphant look. "I got into her cloud storage," he said. "Look at this folder. Hospital templates." She downloaded official letterheads and forms. There's even a Photoshop tutorial on document forgery in her recent files. My hands clenched into fists. "Can we prove it's her computer?" "Better," James said, a grim smile on his face. "Her browsing history shows searches for how to hack hospital records and surrogacy agreement templates. She wasn't even trying to hide it." While James gathered digital evidence, I called Dr. Santos. She'd been reviewing security footage from the clinic. "Mrs. Harrison," she said, her voice tense, "we found something disturbing. There's video of your sister-in-law accessing the nurse's station computer when staff were busy. She had several flash drives with her." The truth was unraveling fast. One of the nurses even recognized Amy, not from my appointments, but from another hospital where she used to volunteer. She was fired, the nurse revealed. She tried to access patient records. They kept it quiet to avoid a scandal. Armed with this new evidence, we went to Linda and Robert. James presented everything: the security footage, the file metadata, the browsing history. But Amy was ready with a counterattack. "She's trying to frame me," Amy shouted, pacing the living room. "James works in cybersecurity. He could have faked all of this." Linda wrung her hands. "I just don't understand why either of you would lie about this." "Maybe we should look into Amy's past more carefully," Robert said quietly. "The nurse's story about the other hospital." "You're all against me," Amy screamed, her face twisting with rage. "Fine. I have more proof, messages from the fertility clinic." She grabbed her laptop and started typing furiously, but in her panic, she clicked the wrong folder. Suddenly, the TV screen, connected to her laptop via an HDMI cable, lit up. Dozens of files appeared, labeled "Kayla's medical records. Edit these." The room went silent. Amy slammed the laptop shut, but it was too late. We'd all seen it. Every forged document, every fake email, every step of her twisted plan laid bare. "I just wanted to be a mother," she whispered, her voice cracking. "They're supposed to be mine. I did everything right. I tracked her cycle, went to every appointment, planned everything perfectly. They're mine." Linda started crying. Robert looked exhausted. James put his arm around me protectively and spoke softly but firmly. "Get help, Amy, before we have to get the police involved." Looking at Amy's face, that unsettling mixture of desperation and calculation, I knew this wasn't over. She still had one more card to play, and I had a sinking feeling it would be her most dangerous move yet. Her final act of desperation came 2 days later. Amy attempted to access the hospital's records department using a fake employee ID, intending to replace my real medical files with her forged versions. Security caught her in the act, and the hospital immediately pressed charges. The subsequent investigation unraveled everything, not just the forged documents and hacked records, but a disturbing history of similar incidents. Amy had been fired from 3 different hospitals for attempting to access confidential patient files. There was even a restraining order from a former coworker whose ultrasound photos Amy had stolen, claiming they were her own. "She needs a psychiatric evaluation," the detective told us. This pattern of behavior points to deeper, underlying issues. The court-mandated mental health assessment diagnosed Amy with severe attachment disorder and delusional behavior. The judge ordered her to undergo mandatory treatment and sentenced her to 5 years of probation. She was also permanently banned from working in or volunteering at any medical facility. James attended every court session, watching his sister's carefully constructed lies crumble under the weight of evidence. "I should have seen it," he kept saying, guilt written across his face. All those years, her strange behaviors, the red flags we ignored. Linda and Robert struggled with their own guilt. They had nearly helped Amy steal their own grandchildren. During a tearful family dinner, Linda admitted, "We failed both of our children. We ignored Amy's problems for so long, and then we doubted you, Kayla. I don't know how we can ever make it right." I looked at them holding our twins for the first time. "By being there for your grandchildren," I said softly. "By helping us make sure they grow up understanding what real family loyalty means." Emma and Ethan were born 2 weeks early but perfectly healthy. Their birth certificates, listing James and me as their parents, were verified and triple-checked by hospital administration. Amy wasn't allowed within 100 yards of the hospital during my delivery. From the moment they arrived, my in-laws threw themselves into grandparent duties as if making up for lost time. Robert meticulously baby-proofed our entire house, while Linda stocked our freezer with months of home-cooked meals. James, ever the protector, fortified all our medical and legal records with extra layers of security. "No one's ever going to question our family again," he promised one evening, watching Emma and Ethan sleep peacefully in their nursery. Through family friends, we heard that Amy had moved across the country after completing her initial treatment. She sent one letter to her parents, acknowledging she needed help and was committed to continuing therapy. James refused to read it, but I did. "I lost myself in a fantasy," she wrote, "and I nearly destroyed the people I loved the most." Today, the twins are celebrating their first birthday. Our house is filled with family, friends, and the sounds of laughter. Linda and Robert are holding Emma and Ethan's hands, guiding them as they take their first toddling steps. Across the room, James catches my eye and smiles. That same warm smile that made me fall in love with him years ago. We made it through the storm. Stronger. Our family isn't perfect, but it's real. Every smile, every tear, every sleepless night. It's all authentically ours. And no one can forge the kind of love that binds us together. What would you do if a family member tried to steal your children using forged documents? Would you press charges like we did, or handle it privately through mental health intervention? Let us know in the comments. If you or someone you know is dealing with toxic family dynamics, share this story. Sometimes it helps to know you're not alone in facing impossible situations with the people who should love you most. See you in the next video. Hi, I'm Pamela. This was the kind of weekend I've been dreaming about for months. My soon-to-be in-laws had invited everyone to their sprawling countryside estate for a relaxed family gathering. The scent of fresh air, the creak of aged wooden floors, and the towering oak tree in the yard whispered decades of family stories. It was idyllic, a perfect setting for the next chapter of my life. I stood in the main hall, sunlight streaming through dusty windows, as my friend Lisa admired my engagement ring. Her eyes widened with delight. "Oh, Pamela, it's stunning. Jack has such good taste," she gushed. I laughed, warmth filling my chest. "He does. I can't wait to start this new chapter with him." Jenna, a college friend, joined us, a glass of champagne in hand. "So have you picked out the dress yet?" Before I could answer, Lisa practically squealed, "She has." "Jenna, it's breathtaking. You'll die when you see it." Their excitement was infectious. Between laughter and wedding talk, I excused myself to grab refreshments from the kitchen. As I neared the door, the hum of voices stopped me in my tracks. Clara and Beth, my soon-to-be mother-in-law and sister-in-law. My first instinct was to step in and say hello, but the sharp edge in their tone made me hesitate. "She's absolutely not fit for this family," Beth hissed. Clara sighed deeply. "I don't understand what Jack sees in her either, but what can we do? The wedding's practically here." "Emma would have been perfect," Beth muttered. "She's beautiful, wealthy, and from the right circles." I froze, my breath catching in my throat. "Emma? Who was Emma?" Clara's voice dropped to a conspiratorial whisper. "You're still planning on spilling red wine on her dress, aren't you?" Beth chuckled darkly. "That's a classic, but no. I've got something better in mind. What if we tampered with the wedding cake? Imagine the chaos if everyone got sick." The calculated malice in her tone sent a chill down my spine. Clara mused, "Or perhaps I could chat with Mrs. Patterson during the ceremony. A little nudge about Pamela's past, and she'll create a scene for sure." Their laughter filled the kitchen, cold and cruel. My heart pounded, a lump forming in my throat. How could they? Why? Retreating silently, I returned to Lisa and Jenna, my face pale. They immediately noticed. "Pamela, what's wrong?" Lisa asked, her voice full of concern. I hesitated before telling them everything. Their reactions mirrored my own. Jenna's eyes flashed with fury. "Those witches. Who does that?" Lisa grabbed my hand, her grip firm. "We're not letting them get away with this, Pamela." A sense of determination settled within me. They think I'm an easy target, but they're in for a surprise. Our conversation stretched into the night, plans forming amidst the shock. I wasn't alone. Whatever Clara and Beth had planned, I had my friends by my side, ready to fight back. When I returned to my childhood home the next day, the memory of their laughter still haunted me, biting at my peace. I needed more support, and there was no one better than Sasha and Mia to confide in. As the evening sun bathed my living room in gold, I poured my heart out. "You're telling us Clara and Beth are sabotaging your wedding?" Maya asked, her expression a mixture of disbelief and outrage. Sasha slammed her coffee mug onto the table. "Those snakes. Who do they think they are?" "I don't know," I admitted, my voice trembling. "What do I do? It's my wedding, and the thought of someone deliberately trying to ruin it." My voice trembled under the weight of betrayal. Mia took my hand, her eyes fierce with determination. "We're going to make sure they don't get their way. You're not facing this alone, Pamela. We've got your back. Always." We spent hours in Mia's apartment, strategizing. Sasha, ever the planner, had a notebook open, jotting down ideas. "All right, Pamela, we need a game plan," she said, tapping her pen. "If Clara and Beth are planning to pull something at the wedding, we'll need eyes on them at all times. We can take shifts to ensure they don't cause any mischief." Mia nodded. "And it's not just during the wedding. We need to be vigilant before it too. Your dress, the cake, everything could be a target." The next morning, over brunch at our favorite coffee shop, I filled Jack in. His expression shifted from confusion to disbelief. "My mother and sister? Really, Pamela? Are you sure?" "Believe me, I wish I weren't," I said, my voice quiet. "I overheard them at the house." Jack ran a hand through his hair, his brow furrowed. "Okay, I trust you. I'll keep an eye on them, but you're certain they're planning something for the wedding?" "I'm certain. Mia and Sasha are helping too." He sighed, his shoulders heavy with the weight of it all. "This is overwhelming. But we'll get through it. Together." Later that evening, the three of us dove into research at Mia's apartment. The warm glow of her desk lamp illuminated the scattered papers and open laptops. We combed through articles on wedding sabotage and scrutinized Clara and Beth's social media profiles. Sasha's eyes lit up with an idea. What if we gather evidence, like a recording of them plotting? It could come in handy if we need to confront them. It's risky, Mia agreed, but worth it. We just need to catch one of their schemes on tape. Armed with a discreet voice recorder, I visited Clara and Beth's house under the guise of a routine stop. Following Mia and Sasha's careful coaching, I planted the device where it would pick up their conversation. To our relief, it worked. The recording captured every detail of their schemes, including a new plan to switch the seating arrangements at the reception to cause chaos. Hearing their voices solidified my resolve. With this evidence, I felt a renewed sense of strength. To allies, Sasha said, raising an imaginary toast, and to ensuring your big day goes off without a hitch. The sun rose on my wedding day, its rays spilling over the beautiful garden venue. Fairy lights twinkled in the soft morning breeze. But instead of feeling nervous, I was determined. In the bridal suite, Sasha and Mia stood beside me in their elegant bridesmaid dresses. As I adjusted my veil in the mirror, Mia smirked, holding a glass of red wine. "Don't even joke with that," I said, giggling nervously. "Relax," Maya replied with a wink. "This isn't for you. It's for Beth." Moments later, Beth approached with a suspiciously sweet smile, a glass of red wine clutched a little too tightly in her hand. "Congrats, Pamela," she said, her voice dripping with insincerity. As she passed by, her arm swayed deliberately toward my pristine white dress. But Mia was quicker. She bumped into Beth just in time, spilling the drink all over Beth's pale pink dress instead. "Oh my. So clumsy of me," Mia said, her tone a perfect mix of mock apology and mischief. Beth's face turned a deep shade of crimson, matching the wine now soaking her dress. "Mia, watch where you're going." Mia smiled slyly. "Oops." I stifled a laugh as Sasha whispered, "Round one to us." But the battle wasn't over. Clara, elegantly dressed, moved among the guests, her voice soft but insidious. I noticed some guests casting furtive glances my way, their expressions uncertain. My Aunt Lisa approached, her brow furrowed. "Pamela, is it true what Clara's been saying about you?" I took a deep breath, ready to respond, but Sasha stepped in. "Don't believe a word, Aunt Lisa. Clara's been stirring the pot all day, and it's all nonsense." Relief washed over my aunt's face. I thought so. She seemed far too eager to share her gossip. Sasha made quick work of briefing a few other key family members, shutting down Clara's rumors before they could take root. The focus shifted back to the joyous occasion. The ceremony itself was magical. Under a canopy of greenery and twinkling fairy lights, Jack and I exchanged vows. Surrounded by the love of our friends and family, nothing else mattered. The sabotages felt like a distant memory. As the evening wore on and the reception came alive with music and laughter, I couldn't help but smile. Feeling just a touch vindictive, I discreetly played the recording of Clara and Beth scheming for a few close family members. The range of expressions on their faces was satisfying. Shock, disgust, and disbelief rippled through the room. Jake, usually the family's light-hearted jokester, was uncharacteristically serious. I can't believe they'd stooped so low. Lucy, my cousin, shook her head in disbelief. That's just inexcusable. Word spread quickly. Though no one openly confronted them, the chilly reception Clara and Beth received was undeniable. The once chatty pair suddenly found themselves ignored, avoided, and treated like pariahs in their own family gathering. Sasha leaned in, her voice dripping with satisfaction. "Justice served, Pamela, and in the best way possible." I smiled, feeling a lightness I hadn't felt in weeks. The rest of the evening was filled with dancing, laughter, and love. As Jack twirled me around on the dance floor, the worries and plots of Clara and Beth felt like a distant storm, leaving behind a breathtaking rainbow in its wake. The rhythmic sound of waves crashing against the shore mirrored the steady beat of my heart. Here I was in paradise, a stunning beach resort with Jack by my side. Sitting on the balcony of our honeymoon suite, a drink in hand, I let myself breathe in the beauty of the horizon stretching endlessly before us. Jack turned to me, his expression serious, tinged with regret. "You know, I've been thinking about everything that happened. Pamela, I'm so sorry I doubted you." I looked into his eyes, seeing the sincerity of his words. "It's okay, Jack. I get it. It's hard to believe your own family would do something like that." He took a deep breath, his voice heavy with emotion. "I'm just grateful you had the courage to stand up to them. Honestly, I can't imagine how our wedding would have turned out if it hadn't been for you and Sasha and Mia. A soft smile tugged at my lips. We do make a pretty good team, don't we? He chuckled, his tone lighter. That's an understatement. As we sat there enjoying the serenity, my phone buzzed with a new message. It was from Aunt Lisa. Hey Pamela, just wanted to let you know that news about Clara and Beth has spread. Most of the family is furious. Good on you for handling everything so gracefully. Enjoy your honeymoon. Soon after, more messages poured in from friends and family, some expressing shock, others admiration for how I had handled the ordeal. It seems Clara and Beth are finally getting a taste of their own medicine. I mused, scrolling through the messages. Jack nodded. They brought it on themselves. Actions have consequences. The rest of the day was blissful. We explored the resort, indulged in spa treatments, and savored exquisite cuisines. But the best part of it all was simply being with Jack, knowing we had weathered a storm together and emerged stronger. That evening, as we strolled hand in hand along the beach, the cool sand under our feet, I found myself reflecting on everything. The sting of betrayal, the anxiety of the unknown, the relief of having allies, and the sweetness of triumph. Each moment was like a bead on a necklace, threading together the story of our wedding. Jack squeezed my hand, pulling me out of my thoughts. What's on your mind? I smiled up at him. Just how lucky I am, not just for escaping Clara and Beth's schemes, but for having friends like Sasha and Mia, and for having you. He leaned in, brushing a kiss against my forehead. I'm the lucky one, Pamela. For your strength, your resilience, and the love you've brought into my life. We spent the rest of the night lying on beach chairs under a canopy of stars. The past felt like a distant memory, a storm we had overcome together. Raising my glass, I whispered a quiet toast to the horizon, where the vast sea met the endless sky. To us, I said softly. It was a toast to love, friendship, and the sweet taste of victory. What do you think? Do people like Clara and Beth deserve second chances, or are some actions unforgivable? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Hi, I'm Sophia. Today, I want to share a chapter of my life that was equal parts joyful and heartbreaking. Before we dive in, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more stories like this. Now, let's get into it. My husband Mark and I were over the moon when we finally adopted our son Lucas. He was about to turn 7, and we wanted his birthday to be unforgettable, a celebration of him joining our family, but not everyone shared our excitement. One afternoon, as I scrolled through party themes, Mark walked into the room, his expression uneasy. Have you talked to my mom about the party yet? He asked. I sighed. Not yet, but I can't avoid it forever. She's going to find out sooner or later. When I finally called his mom, Linda, her voice was clipped, her words brimming with disapproval. Sophia, why make such a spectacle over this boy? She asked, not bothering to hide her disdain. Because he's our son, Linda, I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. We want his first birthday with us to be special. A party won't change what he is, she sneered. Her bitterness stung, but I still extended the invitation, hoping that seeing Lucas happy would soften her heart. The week flew by as I booked a community center, ordered Lucas's favorite superhero cake, and sent out invitations. My best friend, Sarah, came over to help set up the day before. As we hung decorations, Sarah turned to me. Are you sure inviting Linda is a good idea? Last time didn't exactly go smoothly. I tied a balloon to a chair, hesitating for a moment. She's family. Maybe seeing Lucas this happy will change her perspective. Sarah gave me a skeptical look. Just be careful. She can be cruel. The morning of the party, Lucas was buzzing with excitement, his energy lighting up the house. Guests arrived, bringing gifts and hugs. But when Linda walked in, her tight smile and cold demeanor instantly chilled the warm atmosphere. She pulled me aside almost immediately. This is a mistake, Sophia, she whispered, her voice sharp. Frustration bubbled inside me. He's a child, Linda, your grandson. Can't you just be happy for him? Her eyes scanned the room with disdain. These people are fools. And you? You're the biggest fool of all for thinking he can replace real family. I took a deep breath, forcing a calm I didn't feel. Today is about Lucas. Please, for his sake, let's keep the peace. As the party picked up, Kids ran around with cake-smeared faces, and Lucas was beaming, surrounded by his new friends. I kept a wary eye on Linda, who lingered at the edges, her presence a dark shadow over the celebration. But I didn't expect what came next. The music was lively, and the room buzzed with laughter when suddenly Linda stepped forward, grabbing the DJ's microphone. "Can I have your attention, please?" Her voice cut through the music, silencing the crowd. A tense hush fell over the room as all eyes turned to her. "I have something important to say about this celebration," she began. "What is she doing?" Mark muttered beside me, his jaw tight. Linda's voice dripped with disdain. "Today we're supposedly celebrating Lucas, a boy who has no rightful place in this family." Gasps rippled through the room. I clenched my fists, heat rising in my cheeks. "He's just as much a part of this family as anyone else," I said, my voice trembling with controlled anger. Linda scoffed, her tone sharp and cruel. "A child plucked from nowhere? He'll never carry on the family legacy." Mark stepped forward, his voice firm. "Mom, that's enough. This is neither the time nor the place." Ignoring him, Linda turned to Lucas, her expression softening in a way that felt sickeningly manipulative. "Lucas, sweetheart," she said sweetly, bending down to his level. "Let's get away from this nonsense. How about we go for a little walk?" Lucas looked up at her, confusion clouding his bright eyes. He hesitated, glancing back at me. "But I want to stay at my party," Lucas cried, his voice trembling. "This isn't your real family's party. You don't belong here," Linda whispered harshly, loud enough for others nearby to hear. She reached out to grab his hand, but I was at Lucas's side in an instant, pulling him behind me. "No, stay away from him," I said, my voice sharp and unwavering. Linda sneered, her gaze darting around the room as guests began to murmur and pull out their phones. "This is exactly what I mean. You people are deluding yourselves," she hissed. "Why are you doing this, Linda? Why can't you just be happy for him?" My voice broke, frustration and sadness welling up. "He's not my grandson," she declared coldly. "He will never be." "Enough, Mom," Mark's voice cut through, his tone seething with anger. "You're leaving, now." As he guided his mother out, she resisted, her voice loud and venomous. "You'll all see the truth eventually. This isn't the end." Reluctantly, she left, but the damage had already been done. The chatter of the guests returned, uneasy and subdued, as I handed out party favors. Then a scream sliced through the noise. I spun around. Lucas was gone. Linda was nowhere in sight. Panic surged through me. Mark and I bolted outside, scanning the parking lot frantically. There, at the edge, I saw Linda dragging Lucas by the arm toward her car. "Linda, stop," I shouted, my voice trembling with fear and fury. Lucas struggled, tears streaming down his face. "Mom, help." Mark reached him first, his face a mask of disbelief and rage. "Mom, what are you doing?" Linda glared at him, tightening her grip on Lucas. "I'm fixing a mistake," she spat. "Let him go," Mark demanded, his voice a dangerous calm as he stepped forward. The confrontation drew a crowd. Guests spilled out of the community center, some calling for help, others recording the scene. Linda's eyes darted around, realizing too late the spectacle she had caused. With a harsh shove, she released Lucas, who ran straight into my arms. I held him tightly, feeling his small body tremble as he buried his face in my shoulder. Linda stormed off, disappearing into her car as the crowd dispersed, murmuring in shock. The atmosphere was heavy, the party's spirit dampened. I knelt to Lucas's level, brushing his tear-streaked face. "Hey, it's okay," I whispered, my voice shaking. "You are loved, and you are wanted. Don't ever forget that." Sarah approached, placing a comforting hand on my shoulder. "Everyone here knows the truth, Sophia. We love Lucas, and we've got your back." I stood addressing the remaining guests. "Thank you for staying. This celebration is about family, Lucas's family. And family isn't just about blood. It's about love and support." The music started again, softer this time, and Lucas's friends quickly pulled him back into the festivities. Slowly, the shadow of the earlier incident began to lift, replaced by laughter and warmth. "Thank you, Sarah," I said quietly, my voice thick with emotion. "Just doing what's right," she replied. "Lucas deserves all the happiness we can give him." Mark and I exchanged a look, a silent promise passing between us. No matter what it took, we would protect Lucas. The aftermath of the party rippled through the community like a shockwave. Word of Linda's behavior spread quickly, and support for Lucas poured in from friends and neighbors. In our kitchen the next morning, I sat across from Mark, anger simmering beneath my exhaustion. "Can you believe what your mother did?" I asked, my voice low but fierce. Mark rubbed his temples, looking worn. "I can't, Sophia. I just can't understand how she thought that was okay. We need to do something. We can't let her get away with this," I said, my mind racing. Together, we devised a plan. Not to take Linda to court, but to expose her for the person she truly was. With the help of Sarah, we started sharing our story with family and friends. Social media lit up with messages of support for Lucas and widespread condemnation of Linda's outdated, harmful views. Meanwhile, I began a more covert operation. I knew Linda often ranted about family purity during phone calls, so I decided it was time the world heard her true thoughts. "Linda," I said during one call, feigning curiosity, "some people at the party were saying you might have a point. Maybe you could explain it to me again." She took the bait, her tone smug. "It's simple, really. Bloodline is everything. You can't just bring someone from the outside and expect them to fit in. These adopted children, they dilute our heritage." I recorded every word, knowing this would be vital. After weeks of gathering evidence, Mark and I prepared to confront her publicly. At a family gathering, Linda arrived as expected, wearing her usual air of superiority. But as the evening unfolded, whispers of discontent spread among relatives who'd heard rumors of her behavior. When the moment was right, I connected my phone to the sound system and pressed play. "You can't just bring someone from the outside and expect them to fit in." Linda's voice echoed, every word cutting like a knife. Gasps filled the room. Linda froze, her face paling as her own words condemned her. She tried to interrupt, but I played another recording. "These adopted children, they dilute our heritage." The room erupted in murmurs of shock and disgust. Linda's composure crumbled, her eyes darting around in search of allies. None came. As her own words condemned her, Linda stood frozen, her mouth opening and closing as she scanned the room for any support or sympathy. None came. Even those who had remained neutral or silent before couldn't ignore the blatant hatred and bigotry now exposed so plainly. "How could you say these things, Mom?" Mark's voice broke the silence, his disappointment palpable. "I was just concerned for the family," Linda stammered, her usual composure crumbling under the weight of the confrontation. "Concerned by isolating a child? By spreading hate?" I countered, stepping forward. "This isn't concern, Linda. It's prejudice." The room remained heavy with tension, the last of the recordings fading into silence. Relatives who had once greeted her warmly now turned their backs, whispering amongst themselves, their expressions a mixture of anger and sadness. As Linda looked around, the realization of her alienation sank in. Her face crumpled, and though she moved as if to speak, perhaps to justify or apologize, no one was interested in hearing more. One by one, the family members shifted their attention to Lucas, surrounding him with kind words and warm gestures. Linda, now a pariah within her own family, left the house without another word. Her departure was marked not by the dramatic outburst she might have hoped for, but by a profound, heavy silence. After she was gone, Mark took my hand, squeezing it gently. "Thank you," he whispered, "for standing up for our son, for standing up for our family." "It had to be done," I replied, watching Lucas laugh, blissfully unaware of the storm that had just passed. Secure in the love and acceptance of his true family, he radiated happiness. That night, as the house quieted and the last of the relatives left, we sat with Lucas, holding him close. Our little family had grown stronger, bound by love and resilience. We had faced ugliness head-on, and in doing so, we had ensured that love, not blood, defined us. The confrontation marked a turning point. The backlash drove Linda to move away, her presence no longer casting a shadow over our lives. With her gone, we rebuilt our family's foundation stronger than ever. Lucas flourished, his laughter becoming a constant melody in our home, and the love within our household deepened. One afternoon, as I watched Lucas chase a butterfly in the yard, I felt the depth of our bond. "You know, Lucas, no matter what anyone says, you are loved beyond measure. This will always be your home," I said, my voice steady with conviction. "I know, Mom," Lucas replied, his eyes bright with certainty. I love you and Dad so much too. Linda faded into a distant memory, but the lessons she left behind lingered. We learned the importance of standing firm against toxic influences and reinforcing the values of inclusivity and love within our family and community. As Lucas's laughter filled the air, I knew we were stronger for the challenges we had faced. Love was our greatest defense, a bond unbreakable and unwavering. And now a question for you. Do you think it's ever justifiable to cut a family member out of your life if their beliefs fundamentally oppose your own, especially when those beliefs harm others? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like this story if it resonated with you and subscribe to the channel for more powerful tales that inspire, challenge, and connect us. Thank you for watching. Hi, I'm Olivia. You know those moments when everything shifts and nothing will ever be the same. Mine hit at midnight on a freezing January night, with a 102-degree fever and my sister Marina screaming at me to get out of her house. Let me backtrack. I was a second-year medical resident at Metro General, working grueling hours while battling an autoimmune condition that flared at the worst times. Marina, my older sister by 5 years, had offered me a place to stay until I got back on my feet. "What are sisters for?" she'd said, wrapping me in a hug. Back then, it felt like a lifeline. Funny how a new boyfriend changes things. "You can't kick me out. I can barely stand," I said, shivering on the couch, wrapped in the blanket Mom had knitted years ago. "Kyle's moving in tomorrow," Marina snapped. Her arms were crossed, her expression icy. "We need your room." Kyle, her boyfriend of 3 whole months, leaned casually against the wall, wearing a smirk that made my stomach churn. "You've had plenty of time to find your own place," she added. "We never discussed me moving out," I protested, my head pounding and vision swimming. "I'm paying rent." "About that," she interrupted, her tone dripping with mock sympathy. "The money you've been sending doesn't cover your share." It was a blatant lie. I had receipts for every payment. Thank God for my best friend Sophia's advice to document everything. Sophia, a fellow resident who'd seen enough family drama to rival a soap opera, had warned me that Marina's sudden generosity felt off. Desperate, I called our parents. Surely they'd set Marina straight. "Just pack your things and come home," Mom said, sounding distracted. "You know how Marina gets when she's made up her mind." "She's sick, Diana," Dad grumbled in the background. "Tell her to stop being dramatic and work it out with her sister." Shaking, I ended the call. Dr. Chen, my supervisor, had warned me last week that stress was delaying my recovery. "Family should be your support system," she'd said, "not your stressor." I texted Sophia, "Marina's kicking me out. Need help?" Her reply was instant, "On my way. Don't move. Document everything." So feverish and delirious, I hit record on my phone. Marina's voice rose as she hurled my medical supplies into a garbage bag, while Kyle chimed in about how I always played the sick card. They had no idea that their midnight eviction was only the beginning. Sophia's guest room became my haven. Between hospital shifts, I pieced together the truth behind Marina's lies. Those rent payments, she'd been pocketing my money while telling Kyle I was freeloading. One morning, Sophia handed me her tablet. "You need to see this," she said. Kyle had a pattern. 3 women in 2 years, each with eerily similar stories. Move in, isolate, drain their finances, then move on. "Marina won't believe this," I said, my voice hollow. "She doesn't have to," Sophia replied, scrolling through more evidence. "But your parents? They need to see who they're really siding with." Meanwhile, my parents were in full denial mode. Mom flooded the family group chat with Sunday dinner plans, pretending nothing had happened. Dad left voicemails about keeping the peace. "She's going through a rough time," Mom said when she showed up at the hospital unannounced, holding a thermos of soup. "You need to stop holding a grudge." I stared at her, incredulous. I was running a fever of 102 when she threw me out. "You're a doctor, honey. You'll land on your feet," she said, as if I excused it all. Later, Dr. Chen found me crying in the break room. She handed me a steaming cup of tea. "Family dynamics," she said, her voice soft, "are the hardest disease to treat. Sometimes the only cure is cutting out the infection before it spreads." She was right. Marina had begun spinning a web of lies, telling relatives I was unstable and prone to harassment. Our cousin Sarah called me one evening, her tone cautious. Marina said you've been having breakdowns at work, Sarah ventured. I took a deep breath. Actually, I've been documenting everything, I said, forwarding Sarah screenshots of my rent payments along with the midnight eviction video. I included Sophia's findings about Kyle's sketchy background and Marina's lies. The line went silent for a moment. Then Sarah spoke, her voice low. You know she just got promoted, right? She's been telling everyone how Kyle helped her land the position. That was interesting. Kyle had claimed to be a business consultant, but Sophia's research showed his last legitimate job ended 3 years ago. Suddenly, the pieces were starting to form a picture. One Marina wouldn't want her prestigious law firm to see. Your sister's reputation is everything to her, Sophia said later as we sifted through the evidence. Maybe it's time she learned about the consequences of throwing people away. I stared at yet another missed call from my parents. They'd chosen their side. Now it was time to choose mine. Make copies of everything, I told Sophia. We're going to need them. The push came during Marina's big moment, the annual law firm gala, where she was set to receive her promotion. Sophia's contact at the firm confirmed the story. Kyle had used his fake business connections to help Marina network her way up. Your sister's about to learn a lesson about due diligence, Sophia said, adjusting the neckline of my dress. As a client of the firm through the hospital, I had a legitimate invitation. Marina hadn't counted on that. I spotted my parents the moment I walked in. Mom went pale, and Dad suddenly found his shoes fascinating. Across the room, Marina was glowing under the spotlight, Kyle glued to her side, playing the devoted boyfriend. When she saw me, her smile vanished. What are you doing here? She hissed, pulling me aside. Her mask of composure was already cracking. Supporting my sister's success, I said sweetly. Isn't that what family does? Kyle stepped forward, trying to puff up his chest. I turned to him, my smile razor sharp. Actually, Kyle, I'd love to hear more about your consulting work. Especially with Bradbury Corp. Wasn't that right before they filed for bankruptcy? His face turned an impressive shade of gray. Bradbury Corp. Wasn't just a random name. It was one of his previous scams. Marina's law firm was handling the bankruptcy case. You need to leave, Marina said, her voice shaking. You're just jealous of my success. Success built on what? I shot back. Kyle's fake references or the money you stole from me? The managing partner chose that exact moment to approach. Olivia, Dr. Chen speaks highly of you. I didn't realize you were Marina's sister. Marina's grip on her champagne flute tightened as I smiled at him. Oh, I have some fascinating family stories to share, I said, pulling out my phone, including a video of Marina illegally evicting me while I was severely ill and admitting to embezzling my rent payments. You wouldn't dare, Marina hissed. Try me. I turned to Kyle. And those women from Bradbury Corp send their regards. They're very interested in your consulting ventures. The next 10 minutes were pure chaos. Kyle, proving himself every bit the coward Sophia's background check suggested, tried to slip out the door. Security intercepted him. He was already wanted for questioning in the Bradbury case. Marina's meltdown was spectacular, her screams echoing through the hall as guests filmed every second on their phones. Mom's attempts to intervene only worsened the situation. Marina's behavior is just high spirits, Mom stammered, turning to the managing partner. Olivia's always been sensitive. Sensitive? A familiar voice cut through the chaos. Dr. Chen had arrived, her gaze steely. You mean the resident who handled a triple trauma case last week while managing a chronic illness? The one your daughter endangered by throwing her out in freezing weather. The whispers began, spreading like wildfire through the crowd. Marina's carefully constructed facade crumbled. She'd built her reputation on lies, and tonight, every one of them was coming to light. Sometimes karma doesn't wait. Sometimes it just needs a little push. Marina's carefully crafted image dissolved like sugar in the rain. Dad finally looked up from his shoes, the dawning realization in his eyes. But it was far too late for damage control. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about what you do. It's letting the truth take its moment on stage. The aftermath unfolded faster than I could have imagined. Marina's promotion disappeared, just like Kyle, who bolted the moment the police started asking questions about his role in the Bradbury Corp scandal. Her law firm, desperate to distance itself from the fallout, graciously accepted her voluntary resignation. 2 weeks later, I was in the hospital cafeteria when Safia joined me. "I thought you'd be celebrating," she said, watching me toy with my lunch. I showed her my phone, displaying the latest text from my mom. "You've ruined Marina's life." Sophia snorted. "You didn't ruin anything. Marina did this to herself. The fact that your parents can't see that tells you everything you need to know about moving forward." She was right. Marina had been forced to sell her house, the one she'd partly funded with my stolen rent money. Last I heard, she'd moved back in with our parents, who were now dealing with their own social exile. Word of how they enabled Marina's behavior had spread quickly among their circle of friends. During rounds, Dr. Chen mentioned casually, "Your mother tried to corner me in the parking lot." I froze. "What did she say?" "She suggested you'd overreacted. I told her the hospital has an excellent ethics board if she'd like to formally discuss the medical neglect of a vulnerable patient." That made me smile. My chosen family had only grown stronger. Safia and I signed a lease together last week. Her spare room was now my home. My colleagues, led by Dr. Chen, became my unwavering support system. Even cousin Sarah showed up with moving boxes and takeout. "I found these in Marina's stuff," she said, handing me a stack of greeting cards. "All the birthday and holiday cards you sent her over the years." She kept every card but didn't care about her actual sister, I said, tossing them into the recycling. "Marina's been calling again," Sarah admitted, "trying to get people to convince you to help her rebuild her life. She says she's changed. That Kyle manipulated her." I shook my head. Good for her. She can change on her own time. Not long after, my phone buzzed with another text from Dad. "Your mother's heartbroken. When are you going to forgive and move forward as a family?" I showed the text to Sarah and Safia. "Watch this," I said, locking both of their numbers. That evening, Dr. Chen stopped me after my shift. "Your latest labs came back," she said with a rare smile. "The stress reduction in your life is paying off. Your numbers are the best they've been in months." Funny how removing toxic people can heal you better than any medication. The law firm even sent a card last week renewing their hospital contract. They specifically requested me as their liaison. Apparently, integrity matters to them. Who knew? Marina's last attempt to contact me came in the form of a tear-stained letter filled with excuses and apologies. I didn't read past the first line. "Some people mistake forgiveness for permission to hurt you again. I'm a doctor. I took an oath to do no harm. But that also includes not allowing others to harm me. The night they threw me out into the cold taught me everything I needed to know about my family. Now I've built a new one. One rooted in respect, trust, and real love. To anyone watching who's been hurt by family, remember this. You don't owe anyone a place in your life if they show you they don't deserve it. Sometimes the family you choose is the only medicine you'll ever need. The best revenge? Living well and letting karma take care of the rest." What do you think of Olivia's journey? Would you have handled things differently? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more powerful stories about standing up to toxicity and reclaiming your peace. Let's keep supporting each other through the challenges of healing and rebuilding. See you in the next story. Hi, I'm Lisa. Here we are. 2 years ago, my husband James and I finally achieved our dream, buying the perfect house in the suburbs of Boston. It was everything we had ever wanted. 3 bedrooms, a gorgeous kitchen with granite countertops, and the cutest little breakfast nook overlooking a garden. We worked tirelessly for this place, saving every penny from my marketing agency job and James's engineering career. For the first few months, it felt like living in a fairy tale. We hosted Sunday dinners for James's family, his parents, Patricia and Robert, and his younger brother, Mike. Patricia always brought her famous apple pie. Robert told his endearingly bad dad jokes, and Mike, though perpetually late, redeemed himself by bringing an excellent bottle of wine. It was perfect. "This house was made for family gatherings," Patricia would say as she helped me clear the dishes. "You two picked such a wonderful home." But then Mike started dating Sarah. At first, Sarah seemed nice enough. She worked in real estate, always dressed impeccably, and laughed at all the right moments. But something about her didn't sit well with me. She had this odd habit of wandering around our house during dinners, running her fingers along the walls, peeking into closets, and asking questions that felt calculated. Everything changed at last month's Sunday dinner. Mike stood up and announced their engagement, and naturally, everyone was thrilled. Champagne was poured, toasts were made. But then Sarah, swirling her glass with a sly smile, said, "Now that we're going to be family, we should talk about family properties." The room went silent. James squeezed my hand under the table. "What do you mean, family properties?" I asked, trying to keep my voice even. Patricia jumped in quickly, her tone overly cheerful. "Oh, families help each other, especially young couples just starting out." Mike nodded, giving me a smile that sent a chill down my spine. "Exactly, Mom. James and Lisa are already established. They could easily find another place." I nearly choked on my drink. Another place. Sarah chimed in, inspecting her manicure as if this was the most casual conversation in the world. "This house would be perfect for us, especially with the nursery we're planning." James stiffened beside me. Robert suddenly became engrossed in his phone. The perfect family dinner crumbled into a series of awkward glances and forced throat clearing. Looking back, I should have seen it coming. The way Sarah had been mentally measuring our rooms, how Patricia kept dropping hints about family obligations in recent weeks. But nothing could have prepared me for what happened next. And trust me, you'll want to hear every detail of how this entitled disaster unfolded. The very next morning, the text messages began. Mike sent me a novel-length message about doing the right thing for family and how Sarah had already started planning renovations. Over coffee that afternoon, I showed the messages to my sister Amy. "Are they serious?" Amy asked, nearly spitting out her latte. "They want your house as a wedding gift? That's insane." I nodded and scrolled to show her more. "It gets better. Patricia's been sending me daily essays about family duty and how James and I are more established, so we should help the young couple." "You're only 3 years older than Mike," Amy said, incredulous. "Exactly," I sighed. And that was just the beginning of the storm. Here's how it all went down. I hadn't wanted to go to yesterday's family dinner, but James insisted. "We can't let them drive us away," he said. Big mistake. The moment we walked in, Sarah launched into a monologue about paint samples for her future living room. "Actually," I said, cutting her off, "we're about to repaint our living room ourselves. Navy blue." Patricia's fork clattered against her plate. "But Sarah hates dark colors. You should really consult her before making any changes to the house." That's when I discreetly started recording on my phone. My best friend Carol, who happens to be a lawyer, had advised me to document everything. Smart move. "Mom," James said firmly, "it's our house. We're not consulting anyone about changes." Mike's face turned red. "Come on, bro. You know Sarah, and I need this. We can't afford anything in this neighborhood on our own." "Not our problem," I replied flatly. Sarah burst into tears. "You're ruining everything. We already told everyone at our engagement party that we'd be moving into this house." The room erupted. Patricia wailed about ungrateful children. Mike slammed his fists on the table, making the glasses jump. Sarah kept crying, crocodile tears, obviously. Robert stared silently at his plate, avoiding eye contact with anyone. "This is what's going to happen," Mike growled, leaning across the table. "You're going to sign over this house as our wedding gift, or you'll regret it. Family can make life very difficult." Things got ugly fast. Sarah took to Facebook, posting daily sob stories about selfish family members destroying her and Mike's dreams. She never named us directly, but everyone knew. The comments were brutal. Mutual friends took sides. Distant relatives offered unsolicited opinions, and Patricia gleefully shared every post, adding her own commentary about heartless children. Then James's cousin Thomas reached out. A real estate agent who'd worked with Sarah before. He dropped a bombshell. "You won't believe what I found," he said. Sarah was fired from her agency last year for trying to manipulate elderly clients into selling below market value to her private investors. "Private investors?" James asked. "Shell companies Mike created," Thomas explained. "He's got 3 failed businesses under different names, massive debt, and 2 pending lawsuits from angry investors. They're not after your house because they love it. They're desperate for assets." Everything clicked. The rushed engagement, the constant pressure, Sarah's fixation on our property value. They needed something to sell or use as leverage for their mounting debts. Meanwhile, Patricia's antics escalated. She started showing up at my office unannounced, crying in the lobby about her poor baby boy who just needed a chance. When security escorted her out, she screamed that I was destroying the family. One of my clients, witnessing the spectacle, suggested a restraining order. Carol sent them a formal cease and desist email, warning that further harassment would have consequences. Their response? Mike created a YouTube video titled How My Brother's Wife Tore Our Family Apart. It spread quickly in our local community, and my phone blew up with messages from church members, old classmates, and even my daughter's dance teacher, all asking what was going on. Amy, my sister, helped me organize everything: screenshots, recordings, witness statements. They're digging their own grave, she said as she sorted evidence into neat folders. Keep letting them talk. The family split into clear camps. Robert, finally breaking his silence, called James privately. I can't support what they're doing, he admitted. I found credit card statements. Mike's in deeper trouble than anyone knows. Thomas dug even deeper into Mike's finances. He's been borrowing from everyone, family, friends, even sketchy online lenders. Sarah's been helping him hide it all. But they're about to crash hard. Through it all, I stayed quiet, carefully documenting every threat, every lie, every manipulative attempt. Let them think they were wearing us down. Let them get bolder. Because while they were busy trying to destroy our reputation, they had no idea Thomas and Carol were building an airtight case against them. And then the reckoning came. Thomas submitted his findings to the state licensing board. Within hours, Sarah's real estate license was suspended, pending investigation into her illegal property schemes. Her perfect social media facade crumbled as former clients came forward, sharing their horror stories. Sarah left a furious voicemail. I can't believe you ruined my career. This is all your fault. But it wasn't my fault. It was theirs. Sometimes the best revenge is letting people's true nature come to light. Revenge isn't about getting even. It's about holding up a mirror and letting karma do the rest. The dominoes were just starting to fall. Carol filed our harassment case, presenting a flawless package of evidence: recordings, screenshots, witness statements, YouTube videos, social media posts, and even Patricia's meltdown at my office. Everything was documented in meticulous, chronological detail. Then came the next wave. Mike's former business partners stepped forward with proof of his fraudulent schemes. Those shell companies, not just failing, illegal. The police got involved, and suddenly Sarah's designer bags started appearing on resale sites. She was clearly trying to distance herself from the chaos. I had no idea about his debts. Sarah wailed in a tearful new video, her engagement ring conspicuously missing. He lied to everyone. Patricia scrambled to do damage control, but her attempts to paint it all as a misunderstanding fell flat against the mountain of evidence. Mike's response? He showed up at our house one night, drunk and raging about how we ruined everything. Our security cameras captured it all, and the restraining order came through the next day. As for Sarah, she moved back to her parents' house in Ohio. Don't contact me again, she texted Mike. My lawyer will handle everything. The final blow came when it was revealed that the online lenders Mike had borrowed from weren't exactly legal. The FBI got involved, and watching him do the perp walk on local news felt surreal. Patricia sold her prized country club membership to help cover Mike's mounting legal fees. The same people who had called us heartless were now avoiding her in a grocery store. Funny how fast social circles shrink when scandal hits. As for us, our house finally feels like home again, free of their toxic energy. We still host Sunday dinners, but now with people who actually care about us. Amy, Carol, Thomas, and even Robert, who's slowly rebuilding his relationship with James without Patricia's interference. Mike's facing serious charges. Patricia's in therapy. Sarah's starting over in Ohio. And us? We just repainted the living room navy blue. Sometimes standing your ground means watching others fall on theirs. Our house isn't just walls and windows. It's a symbol of everything we worked for, everything we protected. And now, finally, it's at peace. Like I said, karma doesn't need your help. It just needs an audience. So what would you have done if your brother-in-law declared your house a family obligation? Would you have exposed his schemes immediately or collected evidence quietly? Like we did. Share your thoughts in the comments. Some people say family should always come first, but where do you draw the line between supporting loved ones and enabling toxic behavior? Was I too harsh or not harsh enough? If you enjoyed this journey of justice served, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more stories about standing up to entitled family members. Every like helps more people find these stories and maybe even gives them the courage to stand up for themselves too. This story has come to an end, but your thoughts could help someone going through something similar right now. What red flags did you notice early in the story that I might have missed? Hi, I'm Angela. You know how people say money can't buy happiness? Well, my dad seems to think money is worth more than his daughter's safety, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me back up and explain how this nightmare started. I live with my mom, Sarah, in a cozy apartment on the east side of town. It's just the two of us, and honestly, that's perfect. Mom's a nurse at County General, and even after the divorce, she's always made sure I had everything I needed. Movie nights, cooking together. She's never once tried to lock me in a house against my will. You know, normal parent stuff. Then there's my dad, Mark. He remarried 9 years ago to a woman named Jessica, and they have an 8-year-old daughter, Lily. Jessica's always treated me like I'm some sort of threat to her perfect little family, with her fake smiles and condescending tone, like I'm still 5 years old instead of 17. Lily's sweet, but only when her mom's not around. Otherwise, Jessica's trained her to act all cold and distant during my visits. You should spend more time with your sister, Dad would say, but what he really meant was, I need free childcare. At first, it was subtle. Babysitters are so expensive these days, or Lily really looks up to you. Then last week, he called with this brilliant idea. Hey, princess. What if you watch Lily after school sometimes? Jessica and I could even pay you. I have volleyball practice, Dad, and debate club. And you know, homework. Come on, help your old man out. We're trying to save for Lily's college fund. The guilt trips only got worse. Every call, every text. Then he played his trump card. I found your old baby blanket while cleaning the attic, the pink one with the rabbits. Why don't you come over Saturday morning? We could go through your childhood stuff. Just you and me. That got me. Stupid, right? But I miss the dad who used to read me bedtime stories and take me for ice cream after ballet class. So Saturday morning, I drove over to their fancy house in the suburbs, thinking about that ratty old blanket and the memories tied to it. I should have known something was wrong when I saw Jessica's car in the driveway. Dad had said she'd be at yoga, but I walked up to the door anyway, clueless like a lamb to the slaughter. Perfect timing. Dad greeted me with a big smile. Jessica and I have an emergency meeting with our financial advisor. You can watch Lily for a few hours, right? We'll be right back. Before I could protest, he was ushering me inside. And then I heard it, the heavy click of the deadbolt sliding into place. I sprinted to the front window, just in time to see Dad and Jessica climbing into their Mercedes. Jessica turned, giving me a little wave, like we were playing some kind of game. And then they were gone, leaving me trapped. They did the same thing to Maya, came a small voice behind me. I turned to see Lily clutching a stuffed penguin, her eyes wide. Maya, I asked. Your old babysitter, she said quietly, and Katie before her, and Emma. Mommy says it saves money if they can't leave. My hands shook as I grabbed my phone. No signal. Of course, I tried the Wi-Fi. The password had been changed. The landline? Dead. When I checked the cable modem, it had been completely powered down. They thought of everything. Heart pounding, I did a sweep of the house. Every door and window was locked tight, even the sliding glass door to the backyard, which had a bar across it. That's when I noticed it, a tiny red light in the corner of the living room ceiling. Lily, I said slowly, how long have those cameras been there? She shrugged, still hugging her penguin. Daddy put them up after Maya tried to climb out the bathroom window. My mind raced as I catalogued possible escape routes. When I heard a tap on the kitchen window, I nearly jumped out of my skin. Mrs. Chen, our elderly neighbor, was standing in her garden, her expression etched with concern. She'd lived next door long before Dad married Jessica, and she'd always been kind to me during visits. Everything okay? She mouthed through the glass. Your father seemed upset. I shook my head frantically, gesturing to signal we were locked in. Mrs. Chen's eyes narrowed as she pulled out her phone. Pressing my hand against the window, I carefully traced the numbers backward. 911. Before she could dial, Jessica's car pulled into the driveway. Mrs. Chen quickly pretended to prune her roses, but I caught her subtle nod. She understood. Just forgot my laptop. Jessica chirped as she unlocked the door, her eyes darting toward the kitchen window, scanning for signs I tried anything. You girls having fun? We're fine, I replied, keeping my voice steady. Hey, when did you install the new security system? Something flickered across Jessica's face. Surprise, concern, before her polished mask slipped back into place. Oh, you noticed? Just keeping everyone safe, sweetie. You can never be too careful these days. The moment she left, I grabbed my phone and started recording. Lily, I said, keeping my tone casual, can you tell me again about Maya and the cameras? I want to remember all the fun things we talk about today. My little sister nodded eagerly and began recounting the same horrifying stories. I kept the phone partially hidden behind a throw pillow, its lens capturing everything while the red light of the ceiling camera blinked above us. Two could play at that game. They wanted documentation. I'd give them documentation. I just hoped Mrs. Chen was making her own calls. By the time Dad and Jessica returned that evening, I had over 2 hours of recordings. Lily had innocently shared everything. The crying babysitters, the threats about withholding pay, the times they'd been left without food for misbehaving. She didn't even realize how wrong it all was. When I finally got home, Mom was waiting for me in our apartment's parking lot, her face tight with worry. Mrs. Chen had called her immediately after contacting the police. I played the recordings for her, and her expression cycled through shock, fury, and heartbreak. I always knew Jessica was cruel, but this, she was already dialing her lawyer friend. And your father, I can't believe he'd. Her voice cracked, and I hugged her tightly. It's not your fault, Mom, I said. But we're going to stop them. The next few days were a whirlwind of police statements and legal meetings. Then Maya showed up at the station. She looked exhausted, dark circles under her eyes. But her voice was steady as she described her own experience. 6 months ago, she began, I was too scared to come forward. My parents needed the money, and they threatened to tell everyone I was a thief. Maya twisted her hands together, her words halting. But when Mrs. Chen told me about Angela, I couldn't stay quiet anymore. Dad's attempts at damage control started with tearful phone calls. Princess, you're misunderstanding everything. We were just trying to teach responsibility. You're tearing this family apart. When that didn't work, he resorted to threats. If you go through with this, you'll never see Lily again. Is that what you want? But the evidence kept piling up. Mrs. Chen, suspicious after Maya's sudden departure, had installed her own security cameras. The footage caught everything: the locked doors, disabled phones, and even Jessica bragging to her friends about their foolproof money-saving system. Everything came to a head at Sunday dinner. Dad had insisted we talk things through as a family, probably hoping to guilt me into dropping the charges. Mom came with me, her lawyer friends Sandra and Tao, though Dad didn't know that part. Let's just put this unfortunate misunderstanding behind us. Jessica cooed, serving pasta like she was auditioning for Mother of the Year. We all want what's best for the girls. You're right, I said, pulling out my phone. So let's hear what Lily thinks is best. Jessica's face went pale as I hit play. Lily's innocent voice filled the room. And then Mommy said if Maya told anyone, they'd make sure no one ever hired her again. Turn that off, Jessica shrieked, lunging for my phone. But Mom was faster. The police already have copies, she said coldly, along with Mrs. Chen's footage, Maya's statement, and testimonies from 2 other babysitters. That morning, someone new had come forward. Dad slumped in his chair, finally realizing this wasn't going away. We can work something out. Money's no object. That's your problem, Dad, I said sharply. Money was always the only object. Right on cue, the doorbell rang. The police officers who walked into our family dinner weren't a surprise, not to Mom, Sandra, or me. What did surprise us all was how many victims they'd uncovered. The investigation had revealed Dad and Jessica's money-saving system went back even further than Maya knew. Mark and Jessica Thompson, you were under arrest for child endangerment, false imprisonment, and witness intimidation, one officer stated as they read their rights. Jessica burst into tears, but Dad just stood there, looking old and defeated. Lily ran to me, burying her face in my shirt. Are they taking Mommy and Daddy away? She asked, her voice trembling. I held her close, stroking her hair. Just for a little while, sweetie. You're going to stay with Grandma and Grandpa Wilson. The weeks that followed were intense. Dad's business partners scrambled to distance themselves, horrified when the media broke the story. 3 of them even came forward admitting Dad had bragged about his creative childcare solutions during meetings. The company Dad had spent 15 years building crumbled in just 15 days. Jessica's perfect suburban mom image shattered as more people came forward. Her yoga friends, book club, and even her neighbors shared stories about her subtle threats and manipulative hints. The community rallied around the victims instead of them. Maya received a scholarship from a local business owner inspired by her bravery. Mrs. Chin organized a support group for families affected by domestic entrapment, becoming a pillar of hope for our neighborhood. And Mom? She threw herself into advocacy, pushing for stronger laws to protect babysitters and young workers. "This stops here," she said at every community meeting. "No more silence. No more fear." Lily adjusted to life with her grandparents, who were horrified by what their daughter had done. They made sure she got counseling and encouraged her relationship with me. Every week, Lily and I had sister dates, just us. No locks, no cameras, no fear. As for Dad and Jessica, they took a plea deal. The evidence against them was overwhelming. Dad sent me a long letter from jail, full of regret and pleas for forgiveness, claiming he'd been blinded by greed and control. I never wrote back. Last week, I got accepted to State University with a full scholarship. My entrance essay was about standing up against abuse and driving community action. When I told Mrs. Chen she'd been my inspiration for majoring in social work, she cried. Mom asked if I was sure I wanted to work with trauma victims, given everything we'd been through. Yes, I told her, because I've seen what happens when no one does. What would you do if you discovered your parents were exploiting and imprisoning vulnerable teenagers for profit? Would you turn them in immediately, like Angela did, or try to handle it privately first? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Hi, I'm Ava. You know what's funny? 10 years ago, if someone had told me I'd be running a successful tech company while raising an incredible 8-year-old, I would have laughed. Yet here I am, doing exactly that. Life has a way of surprising you, sometimes in good ways, sometimes not so much. Mom, look, I fixed the robot's arm, Marcus beams, holding up his latest Lego creation. My son's inherited my love for tinkering. Only his tools come in smaller pieces. That's amazing, buddy. Want to show it to Victoria when she comes over for dinner? Yes, she always has the coolest robot stories. Victoria, my rock, my business partner, my family in every way that matters. From co-founding our company to helping me navigate single parenthood, she's been there through it all. Even my divorce from James 3 years ago. Thankfully, James and I managed to land on solid ground as friends. We're better at co-parenting than we ever were at marriage. Now, he's a dedicated dad who takes Marcus every other weekend. And we've mastered the art of civil conversations about more than just custody schedules. It's not perfect, but it works. Ava, your 2 p.m. meeting's been moved to tomorrow. Victoria pops her head into my office, then spots Marcus. Hey, little engineer. What masterpiece are you working on today? Before Marcus can dive into an enthusiastic explanation, the office door bursts open. My parents stride in like they own the place, with my brother Richard slouching behind them. Sweetheart, we need to talk, Mom announces in that tone, the one that always precedes a disaster. Richard has some exciting ideas for the company, she adds with an overly bright smile. I glance at Victoria, who catches my expression. Help me, she steps in smoothly. Marcus, why don't you show me that robot in the break room? I brought those cookies you like. As they leave, I steel myself and turn back to my family. Richard is wearing a brand new suit, price tag still poking out from the sleeve. Dad clutches a folder like it's a classified dossier, and Mom's smile is stretched tighter than a drum. I lean back in my chair, already bracing for the headache this conversation promises. What's this about? Mom perches on one of the visitor chairs, smoothing her skirt with the precision of someone preparing for battle. We've been talking with James. The casual way she drops this bomb sends my stomach lurching. Talking about what? About Marcus's future, Dad says, placing the folder on my desk. James is concerned about the boy's stability, considering how much time you spend at work. My fingers dig into the armrests. James and I have a custody agreement that works perfectly fine. That's where I come in, Richard pipes up, straightening his ill-fitting suit. If I take over the company, you'll have more time for Marcus. I almost laugh. Almost? You? Run my company, the same company you called a waste of time 3 years ago. People change, Mom interjects, her voice sharp. Richard has lots of fresh ideas. Fresh ideas, like that cryptocurrency restaurant that went under, or the pet fashion line that never delivered a single product. Dad's expression hardens. Enough. Mom's tone softens, but her words are ice. Here's the situation, Ava. Either Richard takes over as CEO or we support James in seeking full custody. The world tilts sideways. You're blackmailing me, using my own child. Don't be dramatic, Mom waves her hand dismissively. James agrees Marcus needs more stability. We've already discussed custody modifications. My office door opens and Victoria walks in, her tablet in hand. Her timing, as always, is impeccable. Sorry to interrupt, but Ava, you need to see this. She places the tablet in front of me, her expression sharp. I did some quick research on Richard's business history. The screen lights up with lawsuit filings, bankruptcy records, and a series of unflattering news articles. Richard's face drains of color as Victoria reads aloud. 6 failed businesses in 4 years. 3 pending fraud investigations. Over $2 million in personal debt. And a recurring habit of losing investor money in Vegas. That's private information. Richard snaps, jumping to his feet. Actually, it's public record. Victoria's smile is razor sharp. You know what else is public record? Conspiracy to commit custody interference. Recording conversations without consent. Using custody threats for financial gain. Mom's perfectly composed face falters. We're only trying to help. By threatening to take my child? My voice is steel, and forcing me to hand over my company to someone who couldn't run a lemonade stand. You've always been selfish, Dad starts, but I cut him off. Get out? Now. I stand, hands flat on my desk. And if you ever try to use my son as leverage again, my eyes burn into theirs. Let's just say I've learned a thing or two about hostile takeovers. Richard practically runs from the room, but Mom hesitates at the door, her expression hardening. We're your parents, Ava. We know what's best. As the door shuts behind them, Victoria turns to me. I have a plan, but you're not going to like it. Neither of us notices Marcus's forgotten Lego robot sitting on my desk, its tiny recorder light blinking red. Later that evening, I'm on the phone with Mom, my voice steady. I need time to consider your proposal. This is a big decision. That's all we're asking, sweetheart, she replies, her tone sickly sweet. Just think about what's best for everyone. After hanging up, I turn to Victoria in my home office. They bought it. Did we get everything? Crystal clear, she taps her laptop. Including the original threats from your office. Plus, the PI's report just came in. The private investigator's findings are damning. Dad's real estate business is underwater, and they've mortgaged their house 3 times. Records show they've been funneling money to Richard's gambling habit for years. They're not after the company for Richard, Victoria says grimly. They need it to save themselves. My phone buzzes. It's James. Your mother just called me, he says, his voice tight with anger. Tried to convince me to file for full custody. Said you agreed to step down from the company. James, I can explain. No need, he interrupts. I recorded the whole thing. Marcus is thriving with you, Ava. I'm not letting them use our son as a pawn. Relief floods through me. Thank you. The lawyer's already drawing up a restraining order. But heads up, Richard was asking weird questions about your company's security system last week when he picked up Marcus. Victoria's already pulling up the security feeds. There he is, she mutters, pointing to footage from the server room. We watch as Richard sneaks in late at night, plugging a device into the main servers. It's a data theft device, Victoria confirms. Amateur hour. He triggered 3 silent alarms and smiled right at the camera. My phone pings. A text from Mom. Richard's starting Monday. We'll handle the paperwork. Perfect timing, Victoria says, pulling up a document. I text back, family meeting tomorrow. My office, 9:00 a.m. They won't know what hit them, Victoria says, watching me sign the final affidavit. That's the point. I pick up Marcus's Lego robot, its hidden recorder now safely backed up. Nobody threatens my family. My phone lights up with another text from James. Count me in for tomorrow. Those trust fund documents your PI found. Interesting. Victoria raises an eyebrow, ready for the final act. I glance at Marcus, peacefully doing his homework in the next room, blissfully unaware of his grandparents' schemes. More than ready. Time to show them exactly who they're dealing with. At 9 a.m. sharp, my parents and Richard swagger into the conference room, as if they own the place. The board members are already seated. The boardroom's atmosphere shifts as Richard's face goes from pale to green while the security footage of his server room break-in plays on the large screen. What's this? Mom's smile falters. This was supposed to be a private meeting. Nothing in my company is private from its board, I reply, nodding to Victoria. She advances the presentation. Attempted corporate espionage, Victoria states, clicking to the next slide. The screen fills with recorded conversations, proof of their custody threats as a means of seizing control of my company. Dad jumps to his feet. Now wait just a minute. The conference room door opens and James walks in with our lawyer. Perfect timing, I say, gesturing to the empty seats. We were just getting to the trust fund fraud. Trust fund fraud? Mom's voice is barely a whisper, her eyes wide. Yes, I say evenly. The money Dad's been embezzling from Richard's trust fund to cover gambling debts. The same money you're trying to recoup by stealing my company. Richard whirls on Dad. You said that money was invested. Dad stammers. It was. James places a thick folder on the table. The family court judge found this very interesting. You can't prove anything, Dad blusters. Victoria smirks, holding up her tablet. Actually, we can. Corporate espionage, conspiracy, custody interference, fraud. Want me to keep going? The lawyer slides documents across the table, restraining orders, both personal and corporate. Effective immediately, you're not coming near Ava, Marcus, or this company ever again. But we're family, Mom wails, tears streaming down her face. I stand, my voice unwavering. Family doesn't threaten to take a child away. Family doesn't use kids as bargaining chips. You crossed every line. The board members nod in agreement, their expressions grim. The courts have documented your schemes, I continue, and the community is already talking about the prestigious Andrews family's fall from grace. You've ruined us, Richard moans, burying his face in his hands. No, I say firmly, you ruined yourselves. Now get out of my building. Security escorts them out. As the door closes, James lingers behind. Marcus keeps asking why Grandma's crying on the news, he says softly. I know, my voice catches as my heart aches for my son. You did good, James says, placing a reassuring hand on my shoulder. And don't worry, nobody messes with our kid. He grins. They'll remind me never to get on your bad side. 2 weeks later, life has found a new rhythm. My parents' country club memberships are canceled, their social circle shattered by scandal. Richard is facing charges for attempted data theft, and my company is stronger than ever. At home, Marcus and I work on building a new Lego robot, this one free of hidden recorders. Mom, he says, carefully attaching a tiny arm, are we still family? I pull him into a hug. We're the best kind of family, buddy. The kind that looks out for each other, not the kind that hurts each other. Like you and Dad and Victoria? He asks. Exactly like that. He nods, wise beyond his years. Good. Can we add a laser beam to the robot? I laugh, my heart full. Absolutely. Sometimes losing family means discovering who your real family was all along. What would you do if your parents tried to use your child as leverage? Would you cut ties completely like Ava, or try to rebuild the relationship for your child's sake? It's a difficult decision, especially when children are involved. What if the child were younger, or if you didn't have proof of their schemes? When is it right to cut off toxic family members, and when should you try to maintain some connection for your kids? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your perspective on this complex family situation. If you enjoyed this story of standing up to toxic family dynamics, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more stories that explore real-life dilemmas. Thanks for reading.